Welcome, true believers and newcomers alike. Today I'll be discussing many topics spanning through the various 90s Marvel animated series. Before I get started, I just wanted to say that there is a timestamp guide in the description box below. Now, let's get this started by doing an overall ranking of each show's seasons and how they measure up with the others.
Iron Man Season 1, Hulk Season 2, Fantastic Four Season 1, the entirety of Spider-Man Unlimited, X-Men Season 1, Spider-Man Season 4, X-Men Season 4, Spider-Man Season 5, X-Men Season 5, Iron Man Season 2, X-Men Season 2, Spider-Man Season 2, Hulk Season 1, Spider-Man Season 1, the entirety of Silver Surfer, X-Men Season 3, Fantastic Four Season 2, and Spider-Man Season 3. Done. I have numerous favorite episodes from each series, but for the sake of this video's link, I'll name off 3 each. Some of my favorite episodes for X-Men usually aren't in a group, but rather focusing on one of the X-Men from their point of view. Beauty and the Beast is one such episode where Beast cares for a blind patient while he's trying to keep his anger in check over not looking human. Another one is Nightcrawler, who's been seen by people in a nearby village as a threat because of his appearance, but is nothing more than a peaceful Christian. Old Soldiers, which is an episode where Wolverine crosses over with Captain America to infiltrate a Hydra base. The Fantastic Four had a lot of great episodes, most of them occurring in Season 2, starting with And a Blind Man Shall Lead Them, which is an adaptation of Fantastic Four number 39 and number 40, where Daredevil helps a powerless Fantastic Four fight Dr. Doom. To Battle the Living Planet has some huge stakes going for it, and having Thor guest star is a neat bonus. When Galactus Calls is probably my favorite episode of the series, with just about everyone that could possibly stand up to Galactus doing so. Iron Man starts off with a bang with the Beast within, and sets the course for the remainder of the season. The other 2 episodes that I'd suggest you watch are the Armor Wars. You'll see how much a goal can consume Tony Stark. I'll name off 3 arcs for Spider-Man: the Hobgoblin arc, the Alien Costume arc, and the Turning Point arc, all of which are some of the most essential and gateway stories for newcomers. In terms of the Hulk, Innocent Blood is hands down one of my favorite episodes out of any of these shows. The Return of the Beast is a great arc to begin the series with. And the When Cries Wendigo has an idea that I think should be utilized more. For Silver Surfer, watch the Origins arc and then the rest of the show. That's all I gotta say. Spider-Man Unlimited has a very memorable beginning with the Worlds Apart arc, and Deadly Choices, which I think is an overlooked episode. The high point of the Marvel shows can easily be pinpointed if you look at the dates of each episode's release and then compare them with the others. The high point, in my opinion, is between early 1995 to early 1997. In that span of 2 years, they released the latter half of X-Men Season 3, then all of Season 4, and a majority of Season 5. Iron Man and Fantastic Four's second seasons both started airing in the fall of 1995. Spider-Man the Animated Series aired its first 3 seasons, and in late 1996, Hulk aired its first season. With all those coming out, Marvel series were in their prime doing that in a 2-year span. Marvel characters or organizations that I wished had appeared in one of these series are Shadowcat, Elektra, Bullseye, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Black Widow, Damage Control, and the Living Brain. Why does no one ever do the Living Brain in these adaptations? As many crossovers as there were between these 7 shows, there was a lot of missed opportunities. The most obvious one being that Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four never got a proper crossover like he did with his close allies like Doctor Strange, Captain America, the X-Men, specifically Wolverine, and Daredevil. You would think that this would be one of the first things they do because Marvel's first family were the first heroes Spider-Man ever crossed over with in the double-length first issue of Amazing Spider-Man. In the Fantastic Four series, a missed opportunity was to see a 2-way crossover where the Fantastic Four is the bridge and the 2 parties crossing each other are Namor the Submariner and Black Panther. Maybe if a Season 3 was greenlit, this could have happened. There was an episode of Iron Man where he had to shrink in size to save Clint Barton's life, and I really do think that was the perfect opportunity to have Ant-Man and maybe the Wasp guest star. Huge missed opportunity. One more final missed crossover I'll bring up is a crossover between the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers. The numerous possibilities are there. It's almost too much to imagine to see all these characters on screen at the same time. Those were some what ifs, but even if they missed some crossovers, there was still a number of good ones that we got to see. As mentioned before, Wolverine crossed over with Captain America during a World War II era episode, and it's always cool to see a piece of Logan's past and the time he put in the war, along with fighting alongside Steve Rogers, even if they have opposing methods and views. The Fantastic Four had a number of great crossovers from Daredevil, which kicked off Season 2 with a lot of promise to an episode where they saved Thor, both working together to stop Galactus, to them crossing over with characters like the Hulk and Black Panther, one of which got his introduction through their book back in the late 60s. It's also always cool to see two powerhouse titans duke it out. The Spider-Man X-Men crossover is a almost perfect crossover and is one of my personal favorites.
Close. Even closer.
Along with the Daredevil crossover and Clone crossover. My favorite crossovers from the Hulk are Innocent Blood, which is where Ghost Rider searches for the Hulk so he can stop him from destroying any more of Chicago.
Oh, if those two ever meet head on. Oh man, this city is history.
And the other one is with the Asgardian prince himself, Thor Odin's son. While the action for that crossover could have been better, the drama and underlying time limit to save the day really helped it. What we should have gotten during the height of the Marvel series is a Marvel team-up show. Think about it. A different crossover each episode, and you could have had different VAs from each show return to voice their characters. As long as that wasn't too much of a big deal. Who knows if that show would have worked out, it would have been taking a chance. The only characters that I can think of that should have gotten their own series are Thor and Doctor Strange. Why they didn't, I'm not sure. Both were in two different series and should have gotten at least a one-season run to test the waters. Both at the time hadn't gotten much time in the spotlight. Out of all the series I'd want to see return with their production teams, VAs, writers, and creative minds intact, personally it'd be a three-way tie between Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the Silver Surfer. All for different reasons. Spider-Man is because I'd like to conclude questions that I've had ever since childhood, and I'd like for there to be a canonical ending for this Spider-Man. Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer are two shows that ended way too early for my taste. Now, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but before the Hulk makes his debut in the Fantastic Four episode Nightmare in Green, She-Hulk cameos briefly into Battle a Living Planet. But that episode happens 3 episodes before Hulk makes his debut. Now granted, he doesn't have his origin in that episode and has been Hulk for some time. So you could say Bruce Banner gave Jennifer Walters some of his blood off screen until the Hulk animated series breaks continuity by having She-Hulk's origin in Doomed, and in the next episode, Fantastic Fortitude, she meets the Thing while Hulk also fights the Thing again, establishing that these characters have clashed before, wanting to finish the fight that they had in Nightmare in Green. So they've already met because that's when Hulk was introduced, but She-Hulk couldn't possibly be there because she had no blood transferred to her from Bruce because they explored the origin well after he fought the Thing the first time. See what I'm getting at here? It breaks continuity! It's a easy to miss continuity error, but when you notice it, like I did, it's huge. It breaks all understanding, and I almost went crazy just thinking about this a few months ago when watching these shows. Even now, it still drives me nuts. What is seemingly a small error turns into a big one the more you think about it. Another thing I wanted to bring up is I have a theory that there's actually 2 Marvel timelines that we're witnessing here. One is where all the shows except for Silver Surfer exist in one, but in the other, because Bishop and Cable messed with time so much, this is where my theory begins. What if they messed with the timeline so much that the X-Men remain untouched, but the Fantastic Four change uniforms along with Johnny having a different voice, Captain America not being stuck in limbo with Red Skull, and with Iron Man forms the Avengers, because in Fantastic Four Season 2, we get 2 cameo appearances from the Avengers, but in Spider-Man the Animated Series, they contradict this because Captain America with a lighter blue suit gets stuck in limbo with the Red Skull. In the alternate timeline where either Peter Parker dons the Scarlet Spider suit or this timeline that Ben Reilly described in the backstory in the Clone Saga of Spider-Man the Animated Series. Scarlet Spider does make a cameo appearance in Fantastic Four Season 2. In Spider-Man the Animated Series, the Fantastic Four also had light blue uniforms on, just like in Season 1, separating these two as different timelines. Lastly, this could be how the She-Hulk continuity error can be wiped clean. She showed up later in the first timeline, but after various time jumps, she comes up earlier than in the original timeline. That could be one way to explain it. So in a way, we're witnessing two timelines, one loosely connected to another. Does my theory have any concrete surface to stand on? Well, I'm going to let you decide that. Is it a good theory, or am I just trying to explain a way to deal out all the continuity errors and connections that this loose Marvel universe has, because it was written by different creative teams and was never really planned? I mean, after all, try to explain to me why Matt Murdock's hair is red in the Fantastic Four, but in Spider-Man the Animated Series, it's blonde. Larry Houston is a creative mind that I think doesn't get enough respect and praise. He really knows his comics, and the other day I was thinking, what if Larry Houston had been showrunner on an Avengers cartoon in the 90s? He gave them some cameos when working on the Fantastic Four Season 2 with that art style animation team, and if he brought on a few of the writers from both teams, I feel like an Avengers cartoon under his supervision would have been just as popular as his take on the X-Men. The stories he could have adapted from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and up to that point in the 90s. If he's up for it, I'd like to see what he could do with those characters. It's just something to think about. While these series of shows are loosely connected and rarely acknowledge one another unless crossing over with each other, I would like to think that they're all on the same Earth, whether it's two timelines or one. And if it wasn't for some of these shows, my childhood and love of superheroes wouldn't be what it is today. I will hold fond memories of the 90s Marvel Universe until I am no more.
Before I close out this video, I would like to thank the three main architects of the entire Marvel Universe: Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Steve Ditko. If it wasn't for you guys and the future contributors that would help expand these characters to who they are known as in present time, then my childhood wouldn't be what it was. Thank you. And a special thanks go to Larry Houston, Tom Pateranowicz, John Semper Jr., and company. Your love for their creations is what brought them to the small screen. Also, I'd like to thank you for bringing these characters to the public eye. And with that, true believers and newcomers alike, is the end of this retrospective. If you watched all 8 parts, I just want to say thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Just remember, no matter what problems you got or mistakes you've made, you don't have to carry the load by yourself. You got friends if you need them, right, Hank?
You are correct, Logan, and thank you.
But I'm not done just yet. I'm not burnt out from watching all these various Marvel series throughout this year. In fact, I'm more intrigued than ever, especially with Marvel teams and characters that I'm not too familiar with. One of them being the X-Men. So, next review is me revisiting X-Men Evolution, my childhood introduction to these characters. I'm Lino Mars of the MCA Productions crew, and, as always,
Excelsior!